morning. My name is Brandon. I'm one of the pastors here on staff. If this is your first time here, we're so excited to have you with us. You know, one thing about our church is we are all about family. And that understanding of our family stems from understanding that what the Bible says is we're dearly loved children of God. And so this morning as we worship, as we enter into worship, I just encourage you to lean into the love of God this morning as a father. And what that just means is even as we're worshiping, just think about his love for you. Just remind yourself of how much he loves you. So with that, Aaron, go ahead and take it away, man.
Hey guys, good morning. Aaron Brown here. Welcome to Vineyard at the River. As you're coming in here this morning, I invite you to press the share button down below and share this Bad Mama Jamma out into the world. Get it into the universe, the social webs, and we will just decorate it with a party of praise and welcome people into his presence. Hey, we're going to get started, but as we do, we're just going to pray. So as you're sharing it, I'm going to pray over you guys, and I'm welcome the Holy Spirit into this time alive this Sunday morning. Thank you, guys. Holy Spirit, we welcome you. We thank you that you are in a good mood and you're sitting on a throne full of love in your heart. And Jesus, no matter what is going on the earth, you have a plan and a way to bring beauty from ashes. Lord, we just ask that you would be right now with our friends in COVID and with the African American community. We ask for justice for the injustice. And we ask that you would pour out your presence all across America. And let there be a great revival, a returning to Jesus, who is our revival. We thank you this morning. We have permission to get our hopes up. We have permission to trust in you, Jesus. We have permission to live in your love and know that you're on the throne. Amen. I see the sun waking up the morning, reviving dreams. I feel the wind on my back with promise, reminding me that there's a garment of praise for heaviness. There's a new song burning inside my chest. I'm living in the goodness that he brings. Oh, get your hopes up, lift your head up, let your faith arise. Get your hopes up, our God is for us. He's brought us back to life. I see the sun waking up the morning, reviving dreams. I feel the wind on my back with promise, reminding me that there's a garment of praise for heaviness. There's a new song that's burning inside my chest. I'm living in the goodness that he brings. Yeah. Get your hopes up, lift your head up, let your faith arise. Get your hopes up, our God is for us. He's brought us back to life. Get your hopes up, get your hopes up, lift your head up, let your faith arise. Get your hopes up, our God is with us. He's brought us back to life. Life, life, life over the death in the earth. Life, life, let there be life. Oh, Christ before me, Christ behind me. I am firmly held in your mercy, never myself. Christ before me, Christ before me, Christ behind me. I am firmly held in your mercy, never failing. I remind myself, get your hopes up, get your hopes up, lift your head up, let your faith arise. Get your hopes up, our God is for us, He's brought us back to life. Get your hopes up, lift your head up, let your faith arise. Get your hopes up, our God is with us, He's brought us back to life. Christ before me, Christ behind me, I am firmly held in your mercy, never ending. I remind myself, Christ before me, Christ before me, Christ behind me. I am firmly held in your mercy, never ending. I remind myself. Get your hopes up, lift your head up, let your faith arise. Get your hopes up, our God is for us, He's brought us back to life. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. I've tried so hard to see it. Took me so long to believe it, that you choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. You've given what I don't deserve, and you take the broken things and raise them to glory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Now I can finally see it. You're teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. This is my victory. Now I can finally see it. You're teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. Oh, this is my victory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all, it all. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority. Oh, Jesus has given me. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Sing that again. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority. Oh, Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. are my champion. When you stand undefeated, every battle you've won, and I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. We are the champions, my friend. We'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world. Hey, why don't you look at somebody right there in your house and just tell them you're a champion. You know, we're a family of champions here at Vineyard of the River. We're a family, we're a tribe of champions. We're a team of champions. We get to represent the kingdom, the family of heaven, by which all the angels and the saints of old bow their knee to one Father, one God, the great champion over all humanity, Jesus Christ. Tell somebody today, even if it's awkward in your family, that they're a champ, they're a champion. Not because they need to hear it, but because you need to say it. We bless you, family, Vineyard at the River. We bless you as we transition into the message this morning. Thank you, guys.
Hello there. My name is Cecile Cox, and these are the announcements for the week of Sunday, June 7th.
June 7th? Holy mackerel, I haven't even started my beach bod yet.
Thank you for joining us here online. If this is your first time here, welcome. And everyone, thank you for choosing to spend part of your Sunday here with us. On Wednesday, we continue our Wednesday night devotional at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The prophetic community will also gather via Zoom, but that meeting is on Saturday at 10 a.m. For those of you who'd like a little FaceTime, Daniel and I will host our home group this Friday at our house at 7 p.m. You're welcome to join us. Information is on the website. Over the last few weeks, we've heard about different women of the Bible from a number of incredible women from our church. Good stuff, ladies. Not that it's a contest or anything, but next week begins the Men of the Bible series. Yep. Over the next few weeks, we get to hear from some of the men in our church. Aaron Brown starts us off next week as he shares the heart of the Father. We want to take a moment to thank you for your continued support of the church. Not only has your support helped pay our bills, but it's also provided support for church families who have been financially impacted by the quarantine. So thank you. We really do appreciate you. Please visit the website for the Zoom meeting details, to sign up for the newsletter, which keeps you up to date, and to continue your support. Daniel, honey, what are you doing?
Pretty cool, huh?
And that's it. Here's Pastor Don.
Well, good morning, family. Welcome to a Sunday morning for me, a Thursday night, as I've been all day writing what I wanted to say today, but I'm glad that you're here with us this morning if you're visiting with us. My name's Don Wheeler. I'm one of the pastors here at Vineyard at the River, and this is my backyard, my favorite place in the world to be. And so I'm happy to invite you into my home, and we're going to have some fun things to talk about this morning. So with no further ado, I want to jump into the very first subject that people have been asking about, and something that I need to cover, and that is, when are we going to reopen the church and begin to be together again, face to face, and all of that stuff. And I wish I could answer that question for you. Right now, the answer to that is, I don't know. It's a real touchy thing. We are in a church with 4 other churches that meet, and we are leasing from somebody that owns the building who, they are want to be careful and they want to be safe. And so there's a lot of moving parts, the CDC and all the requirements there. And so right now, we're probably looking at least another month before we can all meet together. And I want you to know that nobody wants to meet face to face more than I. And I know there are some of you that feel like this thing is all overblown, and we have a right as churches to meet in person, that the government can't keep us from that. And I get what you're saying. I can't disagree. But I think it's also an opportunity that we have right now, an opportunity that we need to take advantage of as a church. It's an opportunity, to be outside the walls and to live our life in front of people, to show people who Jesus is. I think we like to spend a lot of time going to church, and now I think that God is calling us to be the church. It's not a building, and I'm talking to the choir, but He's really giving us the opportunity to now live some of the things that we've talked about, we've studied about, we've prayed about, we've thought about. We now get to live it. And so I'm encouraging you to not be too discouraged. I have a hug deficit, and I can't wait for that to be filled when we get back together. But I think God has some important things for you in this time, for each one of you. And I think it's important that we listen to what it is that He's giving us to do, that we have our eyes open to whatever it is that He's showing us. I'm hearing opportunities and some really neat testimonies of some of the things that are going on right now with people in our church. Brandon had an encounter with somebody where he sold a couch, and she came over to pay for the couch, and she had I think it was a bad knee. And so Brandon said, "Can I pray for you?" And so he prayed for her, and she took the couch, and she went home, and she later contacted him through email again and thanked him for that and told him that her leg was feeling so much better. And I'm hoping that Brandon will give you that testimony soon as well. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. And I hope that you will take advantage of them and not get stuck on the fact that we can't meet in the same building. Okay? So that's the first thing we wanted to talk about. We just don't have the green light yet to go, and we're waiting for that. And we'll let you know when that happens, and we'll keep you updated on how things are going. Okay? All right. So now, I wanted to address some of the things that are going on in our world today, some of the things that we're seeing in our nation. There's so much going on around us. So, we had planned on holding a new series. We just finished our series on women in the Bible, and we were going to start a new series today on men in the Bible. And the staff met on Tuesday, and we talked about it, and we decided that maybe it would be important to address some of the things going on. And so I want to do that this morning. I want to share a few of my thoughts and around some of these issues. And I want to make it clear really right away. I want to make it clear that I understand that there may be some of you who are going to disagree with me. I just hope and I pray that you'll hear me through. I also realize that I may say something wrong, or offend me, and maybe offend you in some way. And I don't mean to. I really don't. And so if that happens, will you please forgive me? And know that it's not my intention at all, that I love you guys. And even if I haven't met you, that's one of the things that God has done in my heart. And so if I say something wrong, if I mess up in some way, would you please know that my heart is not that, and I'm doing the best that I know how. So give me some grace, if you would. So today my desire is that I let Scripture kind of become the plumb line by which I form some of my beliefs and my opinions. I'll be sharing some of the scriptures that have helped me to form my theological foundation, in my mind anyway, for what I'd like to share with you today. It's been a hard couple weeks for me, to be really, really honest with you. I want to talk a little about the video of George Floyd, and it's really affected me. The first time I saw it, I had all kinds of emotions that went through me. The first one was anger, extremely angry. And I want to share with you, I've been thinking about why was it I was so angry. And so I thought back. The very first thing that came to my mind when I saw that officer's knee on George's neck, it took me back to being 10 years old. When I was 10, I moved from California to Oregon, Klamath Falls, Oregon, and I remember it was at Christmas time, and first or second day there, I met a young man named Will Hill. Will would eventually become my closest friend as a boy. We would do everything together. And we were in 4th grade together. And this is a story that comes back to me quite often when I hear about police and their interactions with people of color. We were walking home. Will and I were walking home one day after school. We loved to go snake hunting and stuff down by the river as we crossed the river. And we were on the wrong side of the street, and so we both decided we would run across the street real quickly to get to the side there where was a sidewalk. And as soon as we got to that sidewalk, we suddenly saw flashing lights, and a police car came and stopped abruptly right next to us, and the officer jumped out of the car. He didn't really even acknowledge me. He looked right at Will, a 10-year-old boy who was carrying his trumpet from band home from school. And he said, "What's in the case?" And Will said, "A trumpet." And I said, "It's his trumpet." And he said, "Put it down." And then he said, "Open it." And so Will opened it, and obviously there was a trumpet in there. And I remember the officer said a few more things, and then he got in his car and he drove away. I was only 10, but that story affected me. I instinctively knew that something was not right about this. He never really even questioned me. He didn't say anything to me. And so the only difference that I could see between Will and I was the color of our skin. And I will never forget that time. It's affected me to this day. It's the first thing that came to mind when I saw the video. You know, there are times where I try to put myself in Will's skin, or in the skin of any African American man or woman. And I don't know that I can even begin to understand some of what they feel. I'm seeing the reactions that are going on even to this day out in the streets. A lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. And I don't want to minimize it. I don't want in any way to look at it and judge it wrongly. And Kelly shared a story with me this week about a man that it had posted something on Facebook. And I looked it up. And I just want to read a little of what this man said. He said this. He's a black man. He said, "Twice a day, I walk my dog, Ace, around my neighborhood with one or both of my girls. I know that it doesn't seem noteworthy, but here's something that I must admit. I would be scared to death to take these walks without my girls and my dog. In fact, in the 4 years living in my house, I've never taken a walk around my neighborhood alone, and I probably never will." Sure, some of you may read this and think that I'm being melodramatic or that I'm playing the race card. I still have no clue what that means. But this is my reality. When I'm walking down the street, holding my young daughter's hand and walking my sweet fluffy dog, I'm just a loving dad and pet owner, taking a break from the joylessness of crisis homeschooling. But without them by my side, instantly, I morph into a threat in the eyes of some white folks. Instead of being a loving dad with 2 little girls, unfortunately, all that some people can see is a 6'2" athletically built black man in a cloth mask who is walking around in a place where he doesn't belong, even though I'm still the same guy who just wants to take a walk through his neighborhood. It's equally parts exhausting and depressing to feel like I can't walk around outside alone for fear of being targeted. I was listening to another man talk this week on television. And he was talking about how as a boy he was taught to always smile when the police walked by. And he was angry. And he was saying, why is it that I can't feel what I feel? Why can't I be sad, or why can't I be depressed? Why is it I have to smile when I walk by an officer? He couldn't even be expressionless. He had to smile so that he did not appear suspicious to the officers. Try to put yourself in the skin of these men. Every day, facing a threat of being suspected of something because of your skin color. Now, some of you may say, I really don't think it's that bad. They're just overreacting. I watched that video, and I literally had a visceral reaction when I saw it. I was only 10 years old, and it didn't even happen to me. But when I saw the officer place his knee on that man's neck, and I saw the life go out of his body, I got so angry I can't tell you. What we're witnessing today is partially a result of feeling hopelessness. It comes out of a constant hurt or injustice. This is what this man said, that when he was talking about walking with his daughter, he said, it's equal parts exhausting and depressing to feel like I can't walk around outside alone. This is a real feeling. And if you've ever really gotten to know somebody that has walked through these kinds of things, and they've done it on a regular basis, you can begin to see the hurt and the anger that could take place in a person over stuff like this. So, we're in a difficult time. And all around us, people are angry. I don't agree with how they're expressing it. I'm not saying that. And some of them are taking advantage of the situation. There are some out there that are just, they're looting and they're doing what they're doing. They're just kind of taking advantage. But part of what's behind that, I think, now you may disagree, is there is an anger that stirs in them. It's an anger that comes from maybe feeling unseen or unheard. I mean, I hear a lot of people talking about, I want to be heard. I want my voice to be heard. And I think that may be part of what's driving some of this stuff. So for me, I look at all of this and I began to just kind of try and deal with my emotions about what I was feeling and what do I do with this? What am I to do, honestly? I believe that the church today has an amazing and incredible opportunity. I think that what's going on with the hopelessness out in the world today, that what people are feeling, I think it's right out on the surface of people right now. And I think they're looking for something. I really do. And they're not going to find it unless they're heard. They're just not going to. They're going to want to express that, and then we, as a church, have an opportunity to maybe hear them. And if we hear them, to bring them a message of hope. They've got to see it in us, not just hear it. The church, it's time for us as a church to be the church. Not to talk to people about who we are or who Jesus is, but I think it's time, and I think that God has created a space right now in history for the church to move outside the walls. He's literally forcing us outside the walls. When he left his disciples, he told them to wait, and then he told them to go into all the world and preach the gospel. What was interesting is they didn't go. And so it wasn't until persecution came that chased them outside the walls. It seems like it's just kind of in our DNA, unfortunately. If we call ourselves believers, we want just to be together. Jesus has said that's a good thing, but you've got to go and share the good news. And so I believe he's forcing us outside the walls once again. And it's an opportunity to see some incredible things. So how do we do it? This verse came to mind this week as I was praying and talking about it. And with other people, all my conversations seem to be about this. But this verse kept coming to me, and so I want to read it to you. It's found in Micah. And you've all heard it before. You'll probably be able to recite it as I do. It says, "He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God." Walk humbly with your God. He's told you, O man, what is good and what he requires of us. Notice, he says what he requires of us. He doesn't say what he suggests we do. If you're a believer, one of the things we always have to do is check our heart, see where it's at. Is it lining up with his heart? Is there an area in our heart that he wants to move in and change? He requires that we do justice. Justice. It's what I hear everybody screaming about out on the streets. We just want justice. Now, I don't know that they realize what they're saying. I mean, I get it. I think. Not completely. But I get that, but they want more than justice. If it was simply justice, then they would see that all 4 of the police officers are now in jail, and they've all been charged. What they've done has been seen, and now they've been apprehended, and justice now means that they would go and they would face a jury who would decide right and wrong, who would decide whether they had done it or not. But even though that's already happened, people seem to want more than that. To do justice means to render a verdict, to give people what they're due. First, we're to do justice. When we talk about what are we to do in times like this, he says, do justice. Render a verdict. Give people what they are due. See, justice is given without favor. In other words, it demands that everyone be treated equal under the law. Justice asks, did a person do what they are accused of doing? So you see, justice demands one thing, that a person be tried in a court of law and be found guilty or innocent. If guilty, then punished. But there's a tendency, I think, in the world today to kind of pervert justice, to confuse justice with fairness. Rather than treat everybody equal under the law, we begin to change the meaning of justice to be more like fairness. We begin to favor particular groups over others. It's an attempt to try and make things even out in some way. Not simply asking if a person is guilty, but actually trying to look at other factors. It asks about their upbringing, what kind of childhood they had, what's their economic status. It asks about race and ethnicity. You see, biblical justice, it doesn't allow for any of these variables. When it comes to justice, God doesn't allow for any of these variables. As a matter of fact, the Bible speaks against these things. Look with me at Exodus 23, verse 2. Do not follow the crowd in wrongdoing. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd. Leviticus 19:5 says this, do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. Deuteronomy 16:20, it says this, follow justice and justice alone. In Romans, Paul says, in the second chapter of his letter to the Romans, he says that God shows no favoritism. It doesn't mean that we lack compassion when somebody is doing something wrong. Absolutely not. You see, God is a God of compassion. Look at how he tells us to treat widows and orphans. God is a God of compassion. Look at how he says, and as much as you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. God's heart is one of compassion. Jesus was compelled by compassion to heal the sick. Compassion is a huge thing with God. But you have to understand that compassion will always follow justice. And not only that, justice is compassionate. You see, in any crime, there's a victim. In any crime. And so justice demands compassion for the victim. Compassion will always follow justice. Not only that, there's compassion for the one who does the crime. There's compassion in that it reveals and it seeks to correct that person's action. What are we to do? First, we're to act justly. The second thing, that the Bible says to do is to love mercy, to love kindness. We're expected to love people with a loyal love. Those of you that know me know that I'm motivated toward one thing, and that's love. As a young boy, all I ever really wanted to hear were the words, "I love you," and I never did. I wanted more than anything to be told that I was loved, to hear the words, "I love you, I'm proud of you." And early on in my life, it seems that love was all I really wanted. But I also found that love seems to answer so many questions for me. As I grew older, I learned that the Bible actually talks about this. It says that love covers a multitude of sin. Oftentimes, when I find myself in situations that are difficult, when I find myself angry as I watch a man taking the life of another man, I have to ask myself a question. Really, in order for me to come back to a place where I can get a grip and I don't overreact, I ask myself this question: what does love look like right now for me? What does love look like? How do I, at this point, express love? That's my question. It brings me back to this balance in my life. John 15 says, "This greater love has no one than this, than he give up his life for his friends." You see, love is considering somebody else before myself. Love is to humble myself and to exalt somebody else. It's to put someone else first. It's a humbling thing. It's a thing where I'm called to die to myself. What does love look like right now? I think if everybody out on the streets were to ask that question honestly, what does love look like? It would change the world as we know it. We're not asking that question. What does fairness look like? And we want to make things fair. Justice is never fair. It just isn't. And I think of justice, and I think that there are some people that are raised in situations that are terrible, and all they learn is violence from their parents. And so they grow up, and they then act violently. Justice still requires of them that they take ownership of what they've done. Back to the third thing, and that is to walk humbly with your God. Look, to walk humbly with God, I think it's to see God for who he is, to walk with him, and to trust him, Sometimes things happen, and I want to take things into my own hands. I want to say, God, I got this one. And God says, no, I want you to walk humbly with me. Trust me. You see, the first two things, justice and love, are made possible by the third. It's impossible to do justice without humility. It's impossible to love without humility. Without these things, we may be tempted to hold on to an offense, or to take the offense of another person. And when we do that, we face the danger of becoming angry and that then eventually turning into bitterness. We can get caught up in the emotion of a moment. It's what I found happening to me this week as I began to be angry. The roots of bitterness are a very dangerous thing. In Hebrews 12, the author says this. He warns us. He says, "Don't let a root of bitterness spring up, for by it many are defiled." Bitterness is like the roots of a weed that spread all over the place. They spread throughout your soul. Bitterness, one of the most dangerous things that we can let go in our life, because bitterness not only affects us, bitterness, it says, for by it many are defiled. You see what happens out on the streets when a few people with bitter hearts begin to move from their bitterness and their anger. It becomes like a mob mentality. People will take on that same thing out on the streets. So, what are we to do? Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. Now, on a practical level, there are three things I want you to consider. The first is I want you to check yourself. See if you have any dismissive attitude going on in you right now. Maybe some kind of prejudice happening in your heart. If you don't know, then talk to someone, maybe a person of color, and say, "I don't even know if I'm prejudiced. How would I know that?" Maybe you're not, but maybe they're just attitudes that you have that would be offensive to a person of color. So I want you to check your heart this week. Check yourself. The second thing I want you to do is educate yourself. It's so important that you read about it, about prejudice. You read about the experience of people of color. I remember as a child reading the book Black Like Me, a man who was Caucasian and turned his skin black and experienced the prejudice that so many black people experience. Educate yourself. I love how Tim Keller said this. Actually, Brandon shared this quote with me this week. It was one that he shared when he spoke last, and it's by Tim Keller, and he says, "The first step is to understand, and as much as possible, identify with your listeners, the people you're seeking to reach. If we're going out, if God is calling us outside the walls," he says, the first thing you've got to do is to stop and try to understand as much as possible and identify with the people that you're talking with, the people that you're seeking to reach. Keller goes on to say this: "This begins with a diligent and never-ending effort to become as fluent in their social, linguistic, and cultural reality as possible. It involves learning to express people's hopes, objections, their fears, and beliefs so well that they feel they could not express them better themselves." Christianity demands that we have enough compassion to learn the questions of our generation. Think about that. So often, we want to express the answers. What we need to learn to do is listen to the questions. Listen to people. Identify with them. Put yourself in their skin the best you can. That's where empathy, that's what it's all about. And the third thing, so first, check yourself, educate yourself, and third, give yourself. Get actively involved in being part of the solution. Get actively involved. Excuse me. We can't sit on the sidelines anymore. We can't watch injustice happen and not say anything anymore. Not every police officer is the officer that we saw in the videos on TV. I think very few of them are. But there are enough people out there, not just officers, but other people, that will minimize and will treat people poorly just because of the color of their skin. It's wrong. When God came on earth, he came for all people. All people. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. We are not called to a particular gender. We're not called to a particular color or culture. We are called to the world. Jesus came that we could be set free, all of us, from the things that bind us. And this is a season where we have an incredible opportunity, where God is literally pushing us outside the walls and says, take my hope and go and share it. People are looking for it. Will you join with me? And will you go? Just share. Just be with people. Get to know them. I could go on and on, but you get the idea. So hey, I look forward to when we get to meet together again in person. That'll be an amazing time. We're trying to come up with some ideas for that. We thought about having a picnic in a park, and parks aren't open yet, so we can't do that. And we're looking at other options, and if you have ideas, then I encourage you to share them with us. We're always willing to listen, always willing to listen. But I also want to encourage you that if for some reason we don't get upset with us or angry or think that there's a reason other than, I don't know. Just be patient with us. We're doing the best we can, and we love you. So thanks for joining. Oh, one more thing. I just have to do this. Al Day, you're in Arizona, and you have been watching these, and I just want to tell you I miss you. And it's so good to hear that you're doing well. I bless you, man. And for all of you, have a blessed week. And next week, we'll begin our series on men in the Bible. Thank you.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us this morning. We're so glad you could be part of our Sunday online service, and thank you for just taking a moment to slow down and reflect on what's happening in our world and really listen and lean into God's heart with us as we seek Him in the midst of a very heavy and chaotic and painful time. Normally at the end of services, we give little updates about our church family, and we share prayer requests and praise reports and stuff like that, which is great. But this week, I feel like it would be appropriate to just ask you guys to pray for what's going on in our world. It feels pretty obvious to say that, but let's really commit to praying together for our cities, for our state, for our nation, really for our whole world, as so many people are hurting right now. There's so much going on. And I just encourage you guys, if you don't know what to pray, I'm right there with you. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. And so in those moments of not knowing any answers, it helps me to just lean into the things that I do know. And I know that God is love. And I know that we're made in His image. And so we're called to be His image bearers to a hurting world and to share love with people. And so as His children, we get to ask our Father what love looks like in this season. We get to ask Him questions, and He'll show us how to bear His image, how to be love right now in the midst of so much pain and chaos. So I invite you guys to do that with me this week. And I look forward to seeing you next Sunday as Aaron Brown kicks off our Men of the Bible series. He'll actually be talking about the heart of the Father, which is so applicable in this time. We get to lean into the heart of our Father who loves us so dearly. All right, you guys, have an amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.